this month of May. We've done the series in April. I hope that series on the blood, you really enjoyed it. We want to start a new series this month, and what really inspired that series is a quote by Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan made a statement that I've always known, but every time I run into that statement, I have to pause. Dan Sullivan said that the definition of hell is your last day on earth, the person you became meets the person you could have become. Let me say that again. We understand the Bible talking about hell as a place of fire and brimstone, and we get that. We get the reality of that. But that's not what I'm preaching. The physical hell is not what I'm preaching this morning. Here is a quotation by Dan Sullivan. He says, the definition of hell is your last day on earth, the person you became meets the person you could have become. So he's thinking it's going to be terrible and sad when you run into the person you could have become, when perhaps you enter the other side and you see this magnificent person and you ask the angel or you ask God and say, who is that? And God said, that was you. That is you. That's the you that I made. That is the you that I created. That is the you that I knew before I formed you. That was you see, that person that walked past, that was supposed to be you. And you're looking at you now and looking at that version of you and you're thinking, oh my days, was that supposed to be me? Dan Sullivan says that is hell. When the person you became on earth meets the person that you could have become. You see, the tragedy is that many people never realize the best version of themselves. They don't ever realize nowhere. They live and die and they never got close to being that best version of themselves. That version that God spoke about, that he said, before I formed you, I knew you. That thought God had about you. A lot of people live and die and never come 5% close to that version. That version God meant when he said, I know the plans that I have for you. You see, that version for that plan, they don't leave anything near that level. They live and die, and they never live out the best version of themselves. I want to begin a sermon series to this May, and we're going to look at the best version of you, a series we are going to entitle The Best You. Turn to your neighbor and say, the best you. The question this morning is, what is the motivation for this sermon? What is the motivation for you thinking about the best you? Pastor, why? Why are you preaching this? Why are we going to spend the whole of May figuring out how to get to live out the best version of ourselves? The first thing is, and I haven't started preaching, I'm just laying the foundation, the introductory foundation for this series. The first reason is the dissatisfaction. If you're going to ever articulate the best version of you, there has to be some level of dissatisfaction with who you are now, dissatisfaction with where you are. And I'm not talking about discontent. I'm talking about a holy, this is not about complaining about your wife or your church or your pastor or you. No, that's not. I'm talking about a holy discontent, a holy dissatisfaction with who you are and where you are at this moment. It will be the dissatisfaction of having been created to be an eagle, and here you are hanging out with chickens and chicks. You haven't been created to soar, but here you are. You can't even. You're just if you're never going to realize the best version of you if there's no dissatisfaction. So the first motivation for this sermon, I'm still laying the foundation, I haven't started preaching, is that there has to be that dissatisfaction with the way things are. How many people people here, you're dissatisfied with the way things are with you. You're looking at yourself and there's something in you that says, I can sense the DNA of an eagle in me, but somehow it's just a gravity. I'm just on the floor. I'm supposed to be, there's a discontent. It's a holy discontent. This is not the murmuring discontent. This is not the mumbling discontent. This is that holy discontent that said, I sense something better about me, but I'm not kind of articulating it. The second reason why we need to preach this sermon, you need to hear it, and you need to do something about this series, is the desire. Dissatisfaction with the way things are. And the second one is the desire to please God. Oh my God. The desire to please God. Because if I want you to imagine yourself, you die and you cross over to the other side, and in the whole drama, you see someone that kind of looks like you. You say, God, who is that person? And this person is so magnificent. This person is so amazing. This person looks so like wow. And you say, God, who's that? And God said, that's you. Me, yeah, that's the you that I thought of. Oh God, the you that I planned. That's you. Me, yeah, that's you. That's you going down there. You mean that magnificent man walking down there is me? Oh yeah, that was you that I had in mind. And so if you're here this morning and you're like me and to honor God is your priority, I don't know about you guys, but to honor God has always been my priority. I don't play with church. I don't do church politics. To honor God, I come to church to honor. My desire is to honor God. I hope that's your desire too. So if your desire is to honor God, you must ask yourself, this picture of me that God has, I want to meet it. I want to fulfill it. I want to be that picture of me that God had in mind. My mom called my son. So when we have my children, I'll give them the Igbo name. My wife will give them the English name, but my mom will throw in her own Jara in the name. I remember my mom calling my son Adin Chinobi. Adam Chinobi would mean I am in God's heart. But I remember if I had kind of really thought about that name, I would have called my son Adam Chinuche. That means I am in the mind of God. So that means God had a picture of me. I didn't just turn up in this place. There was a picture of me that God had in mind. And so if I'm one whose priority is a desire to please God, then I want to live out the best version of me. The third reason why we must preach this sermon and why you must hear it. Turn to your neighbor and say, Pastor wrote this sermon just for you. Because people come to church now and when you're preaching about them, they have a problem. Let me tell you, I'm preaching about you and I make no apologies about it. It is you that I'm coming after. You could say what you want to say. This sermon was written with you. You're not too big for me to preach about you. You're not too big for me to preach about you. Turn to your neighbor and say, Pastor wrote this sermon just for you. Pastor wrote this sermon just for you. So the third reason is the demands of life. Oh my days. Listen, if you don't begin to live out the best version of you, life will chew you up. Let me say that again. If you don't begin to live out the best version, so that version of you that God had in mind when he formed you, before I formed you, I knew you, that you that he knew way before you turned up. If you don't begin to live out that version, that life will chew you up. You just play at a much lower level like most of you are doing. You play at a much lower capacity like most Christians I know are doing. The demands of life will chew you up. That's why you must hear me preach a series and not complain that pastor is preaching about you. Of course I'm preaching about you. Who are you? I'm preaching about you. The word of God is supposed to be preached to you. You're not too big for the word of God to address your issues. Turn to your other neighbor and say, Pastor wrote this sermon just for you. The fourth one is the duration you have on earth. Oh, the psalmist wrote and said, teach us, I think it's Psalm 90 verse 12, teach us to number our days. Our days are numbered. So if my days are numbered, the earlier I start living out the best version of me, the better. The earlier I start living out the best. When am I going to live the best version of me? Is it when I die? Teach us to number our days. So the duration of our life is such a short life. This short life of mine, am I going to live a mediocre version of me? For these 70 years, 80 years, 90 years, my dad did 83. Let's even assume I reach my dad's pilgrimage. These 83 years that I may get, I'm going to live mediocre version. K2 just roll up in Lagos. No. When am I going to start living the best version of my life, considering the shortness of life? You see why you must listen to this? You see why you must bring your friends to hear Pastor Emmanuel preach this series? Something you guys don't do. You see why you must hear, you see why you must pick up the phone and call someone and say, my pastor is preaching this series will change people's lives. You see why you must not miss church this May. Are you listening to me? See why this May you got to come and hear me preach. I'm excited to preach this. So the reason why we must preach this is there should be a dissatisfaction in your soul, a holy discontent about where you are. There should be a desire coming from you to please God and say, God, that plan, that purpose, that picture of me that you have, that version of me that you had or you thought of when you formed me, I want to. This pastor wants that version. I have constantly contended for that version. The demands of life will demand it. Life will chew you up without that version. And the shortness of our life, the duration of our life, makes it pertinent that you and I at least leave that version for some years before we depart. You see, that version of you, that best version of you has to be made. It has to be built. I cannot give it to you by just laying hands on you. So the part of that, maybe some impartation, maybe some laying of hands, that's fine. But 90% of it, you got to leave it out. It has to be built. So we want to get into this series now by looking at the mirror. What are those? So what would be that version, that best version of me? What would it be? What would that version of me that my short duration on earth means I need to find it and leave it? That version of me that life would chew me up if I don't find it and leave it. That version of me that if I have a desire to please God, at least I need to please God and leave out that version of me that God had in mind. That version of me when I look at how dissatisfied with where I am and what I'm doing and how I'm living, so there must be a holy discontent rising from the bottom of my soul, saying, I think I was made for more. Talk to your neighbor and say, I was made for more. I was made for more. I was made for more. This pastor was made for more. Let me say that again. This pastor was made for more. That version of me, I must realize it. So I'm going to begin this series. Every week I'll tell you a version of you that should be the best version of you. Let's go into today's version of you that you need to realize. It was Mark Twain would always make, if you know Mark Twain, funny statements, a lot of paradoxes, a lot of contradictions, a lot of satires. That Mark Twain is known for every time you pick up a Mark Twain's quote, there's something there. Mark Twain said that the two most important days of your life is the day you were born and the day you find out why. Let me say that again. Mark Twain said that there are two most important days in your life. We tend to only celebrate the first, but we don't even know the second. He said the two most important days of your life is the day you were born and the day you find why. So Mark Twain's quote kind of pushes you and I to ask some questions. And that's why the question of life is the question of why I am here. Why am I here? Mark Twain says the first one is I was born on this day. But why was I born? So, let me just throw it out there. The best version of you must be the purpose-driven version. Let me say that again. So today's sermon I'm going to call it the purpose-driven you. Because the best version of you has to start from the purpose-driven version of you. And you're not going to even begin to articulate the purpose-driven version of you if you don't ask life's most important question. And life's most important question is the question, why am I here? I ask that question every single day. Why am I here? Why am I in Lagos? Why am I in London? Why was I born? Why am I here? I'm not just here to roll around and just no. The best version of you, that version that God thought about when he said, I knew you before I formed you, the version he knew was always going to be a purpose-driven version. Because every life has an agenda. Every life has an agenda. A lot of people sitting down here watching and listening to me have an agenda-less life. Look at your pastor. I live my life with an agenda. Where is yours? A lot of people have an agenda-less life. So the best version of you must be the purpose-driven version. The purpose-driven version. A lot of people have different words for that word purpose. Oh my days. Somebody will call it the agenda of your life. Dwight Eisenhower, one of the presidents of the United States after the Second World War, calls it the overriding objective. Oh God, the overriding objective. Somebody said your purpose is the agenda of your life. I say that to a lot of people who are living an agenda-less life. Dwight Eisenhower calls it the overriding objective. Here is Dwight Eisenhower. He says we succeed only as we identify in life or in war or in anything else a single overriding objective and make all other considerations bound or bend to that objective. So Eisenhower says every life has an agenda. He calls it the overriding objective. Let me ask you a question. What is the overriding objective of your life? Mike Murdoch, I used to sat in KICC when I first got saved in 1997. So I met my wife in KICC, and there was a period in our discipleship, about 5 years in our discipleship, that we ate Mike Murdoch. We ate his wisdom, right? Wisdom. And listen, we sat under that minute. Perhaps that's why I am what I am today. It's just Mike Murdoch and his books of wisdom and all of that. But I remember Mike Murdoch will call this agenda of your life, his word for it was your assignment. Turn to your neighbor and say, your assignment, your assignment, your assignment. You see, that version, or the best version of you must be the version of you with an assignment. The best version of you must be that version of you with an assignment. Ed Eisenhower calls it an overriding objective. Mike Murdoch calls it the assignment. Turn to your neighbor and say the assignment. The Apostle Paul calls it the one thing I do. The one thing I do. The one thing I do. You see, that version of you, that best version of you that you must contend for, you must build before you get to the other side. And God says, that's you right there. That's me. No. That version of you that you must realize must be that version of you that has the one thing that he does. Oh, Jesus' explanation and description of this sermon is even more profound. Jesus calls it the walk that you must walk. Let's look at my text this morning. John chapter 9 verse 4. Jesus is talking. He says, I must walk the walks of him who sent me. Look at that statement. He said, there is a walk that I must walk. There is a work that I must work. There is a job that I must do. There is an agenda that I must carry out. He says, I must walk the works of him who sent me. And here is the most purpose-driven man, the most purpose-driven person the world has ever known. And he tells you and I, he says, I must walk the walk. I must walk the works of him who sent me. So my mother calls it the assignment. Eisenhower calls it the overriding objective. Paul calls it the one thing that I must do. But Jesus says it is the work that I must walk. It is the work that I must walk. That version of you, that best version of you must have these dimensions to it. The problem today is that there are many people living life without first asking the question of their life. And because they haven't asked the question of their life, the version of their life is the purposeless version. The version of their life is the agenda-less version. The version of their life that they are living is the version with no overriding objective. The version of their life is the version with no assignment. The version of their life is a version without the work that they must walk. So if you're thinking about that version of you, the best version of you, there's going to be other version next week. The other week, bring your friends. They need to hear this series. That version must have an agenda. That version must have an overriding objective. That version must have the assignment. Does your life have an assignment? Cornerstone people used to come to church to do politics. Do you have an assignment? Do you have the assignment of your life? Do you have it? Do you have a walk that you must walk? Is there a walk that you must walk? You know, Nehemiah said the walk he must walk was to build the wall. So when he began to build the wall, and they called him and said, hey, Sanballat and Tobiah said, listen, let us come down, let's have a discussion. He said, no, I can't come down. He said, I'm doing a great work, I can't come down. You know why people have time for church politics? Agenda-less lives. If you have an overriding objective, no time. Let's get, what am I, why am I here? I have never seen God create somebody and your purpose is church gossip, or your purpose is church purpose. There's no such purpose as my purpose is church politics. No. The reason why there's so much church politics is we now have a bunch of people whose life is now agenda-less, whose life doesn't have an overriding objective, whose life no longer has the one thing I do, whose life no longer has the walk that they must walk. If your life has all this dimension, there is no time for anything else. So you're going to have a quantum leap. And get out of this version of yourself and take a quantum leap into the purpose-driven version. Turn to your neighbor and say the purpose-driven version. Turn to your other neighbor and say the purpose-driven version. You have to realize the purpose-driven version of yourself, because the purpose-driven version of yourself is the version of yourself closest to what God had in mind when he made you. The purpose-driven version of Pastor Emmanuel is the closest version to what God had in mind when he made Pastor. Let me tell you, Igwe Emmanuel, are you in that sermon? The purpose-driven version of Igwe Emmanuel is the closest version of Igwe that is closest to God's plan and God's picture. Pastor Harry, Pastor Mike, Pastor Dixon, who's in that church, all the purpose-driven. If you want to get very close to the version of you that God had in mind when he made you, seek out the purpose-driven. Find out your purpose. Remember, the most important days in your life, the day you were born and the day you find out why. So when you find out why, the answer to why I'm here gives you your assignment. The answer to why I'm here gives your life the overriding objective. The answer to why I'm here gives you that one thing that I must do. And if you're Jesus, the answer to why I'm here gives you that walk that I must walk. I must walk the walk of the person who sent me. It's something I must do. If I have done everything else, I haven't done this, then I haven't done anything else. The best version of you must be the purpose-driven version of you. And I'm speaking from experience. Purpose-driven version of you doesn't mean you become the richest man in the world, though. That's not how Pastor Emmanuel, with all your purpose-driven, what have you achieved? Don't worry, leave me alone. Leave me alone. The purpose-driven version doesn't mean you have the most money. Because in Nigeria, everything is money. Success is money. It has to be money, isn't it? Let's look at the qualities of the purpose-driven life. When people are purpose-driven, what do you see in them? You see someone who's purpose-driven, they think purpose. They think it. When they come into a church, they're thinking purpose. That's why I keep saying, when you see a church with too much politics, it's a church where the members have lost purpose. Take this sermon anywhere. I preach it in church. When you walk into a church and there's too much politics and too much pettiness, you're looking at a church where 90% of the members there's no purpose anymore. They have four, and I'm preaching this sermon, and I'm calling Cornerstone Church. I'm saying, Cornerstone Church, the best version of you in this church, the God version of you in this church is that version. It's that version that is purpose driven. So the purpose-driven people, they think purpose. Every time they are thinking about anything, they are thinking about purpose. When they're thinking about dating, I want to date a girl, I'm thinking my purpose. When they're thinking about church, they're thinking purpose. When they're thinking about a job, they're thinking purpose. Wherever they think it, this is purpose driven. Is not to go read what's his name book on Warren. Rick Warren's book on the purpose-driven life. Nah. You could read that book and still not be so read the purpose-driven life and say, I'm not purpose-driven. It would be the same thing as going into a mechanic shop and coming out and saying, I'm not a car. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. Purpose-driven people, you know them, because every time they come into a place, they're thinking purpose. Why am I here? What should we be doing? Jesus said, I got no time to waste. I'm purpose driven. They think purpose. They breathe purpose. They breathe it. This is their life. They breathe it and they live it. They think it, they breathe it, and they live it. When they find their purpose, they want to live it. They live it out. They're constantly thinking purpose. I want to use myself as an example of this. Perhaps, Paul said to follow him as he followed Christ. Our problem these days is that we hardly have pictures of people we can use as examples. I use myself as an example this morning. I am purpose-driven, and I'm not boasting. I'm your pastor, so I don't want to start calling somebody I don't know. I am purpose-driven. Let's look at what I said. The qualities of a purpose-driven person is a think purpose, the brief purpose, and the live purpose. Right? Let me tell you, my purpose is to win souls and make disciples. And all the time you've known me, what else have I done? All of you here, all the time you've known me, what my one overriding objective of my life, to win souls and make disciples. One thing that I do to win souls and make disciples, the walk that I must walk to win souls and make disciples, the assignment of my life to win souls and make disciples. Can you say that about yourself? Can you say that about yourself? You see it in every detail of what I do. When it was time to choose a wife, I was purpose driven. I'm blessed with a pretty beautiful wife. Crazy. When I first met Claudine, Sister Anna in KICC Church, I remember 5,000 people church. I saw this girl down. I asked my friend Moses, who is that girl? Moses said, you can't get her. Moses said, Emmanuel, this is too big for you. And I went and pursued. She's my wife today. But it wasn't the beauty. What drew me to her was how she fitted into my purpose. I knew that God was going to use me. I kind of sensed that God was going to use me. So I deliberately wanted a woman who would go where I go. I wanted a woman who would submit to God's agenda in my life. So even when it comes to dating, and when it comes to getting married, and when it comes to choosing a wife, you know a purpose-driven man, not because they've read purpose-driven life, no, but because even in dating, they are purpose-driven. How does this man fit into the agenda of my life? How does this woman fit into the overriding objective of my life? How does this man fit, or this woman fit into the one thing that I do? How does this man fit into the walk that I must walk? And because I was purpose driven in that decision, I married Sister Anna. And let me be honest with you, without that woman, I would have my days winning souls. Without that woman. These days you're dating, the people are dating, there's no purpose to it. You're dating, you're thinking from your penis. That's all you're thinking. No purpose. Your purpose is orgasm. Your purpose is orgasm. When I hear them say their spec, I say, what's their spec? There's nothing purpose in that spec. Their spec is all cosmetic. There's nothing okay, that's your spec. What's that? Can I see your spec? You look at their spec, you're so carnal. We're raising a bunch of carnal Christians today who, the details of their life, there's no purpose to it. Even when we bought a vehicle, when I first came to Cornerstone Church to pastor, that old Honda Pilot that's still there. The reason why we bought a 7-seater wasn't because my family was 6. It was because we thought about when we will carry souls. Old people in this church will tell you that was the car we used to pioneer that church. Sometimes we'll carry young people, 10 of them packed up in that. So even when I was buying a car, I was purpose driven. I'm thinking this car must serve God. This car must serve the purpose of God in my life. That's purpose driven. That's purpose driven. That's purpose driven. They know that every church that I have pastored, I have a personal van. I have a personal missionary van. When I come to a place, you give me, I'm not pastoring your church, you're going to give me a AC personal mission van. That van must have 18-seater in it. Why? Because I'm not thinking luxury. I'm thinking purpose. I have come to win souls and make disciples. So even the car that I'm buying, I'm thinking, how does this fit into that purpose? It says the same with you. Remember that the best version of you, that version of you that God had in mind, must be a purpose-driven version of you. Recently, I asked God to give me a tech job, and He did. And when I asked God for that tech job, it was so that I can be a husband and so I can be a pastor. And He answered, because even in my prayer is purpose-driven. My prayer is purpose. Is your prayer purpose-driven? I think purpose, I breathe purpose, I live purpose, I am purpose-driven. Can you say that about yourself? I am your pastor. You're meant to be like me. You're meant to copy some of the good things. Don't copy the bad things about me, but the good things about me, you should copy. Are you purpose driven? Because if we are purpose driven, there should be less politics noise in our church. Purpose driven people they don't have time. They don't. I'm coming back. When I arrive, I'm going my father's. I have no time. Teach us to number our days. How many days do we have left to be wasting it on? Come on. What's your purpose? Agendaless lives. Lives with no overriding objectives. What's your purpose? Let me end this sermon right now by looking at the benefits. When God says, I want you to be purpose driven, are there benefits to us? If you can give me how I can start being purpose driven, what do I stand to gain? Are there some, tertiary benefit that I can gain by being purpose driven? I'm going to give you a few benefits that I have experienced. That I have experienced, and they all will end with an M, so you can remember. When you're purpose driven, there's improved mental health. There's improved mental health when you're purpose driven. Purpose driven people, when you have a purpose, it can help you reduce stress, because it can help you reduce stress. You're mentally tougher. There's a mental talk, because I'm not interested in, this is what I do. The one thing that I do, the overriding objective of my life, the agenda, if you're my model, the assignment. Once you have an assignment, your mental health is better. Because I don't really care what the other pastor is doing. This is my own. Make disciples. Get people converted. Pastor, you're too busy. Yeah, that's my own, is to get people saved. Turn them from hell to heaven. Yeah, I know it's not too complex. I know it's too elementary, but I make this, rebuild them up, make disciples. Yeah. So my mental health is better because you're doing your own thing. It is my purpose. So there's improved mental health. Improved mental health. Write that down. When you're purpose driven, there's better meaning. There's better meaning and satisfaction. Right? Have you noticed that when you're doing something you think you're really born to do, there's a sense of meaning? That's why I can leave London and come to Lagos. Yeah. That's why I can leave a first world country and come to a third world country. That's why I can leave a developed country and come to a developing country. Because even in that developing country, even in that third world country, once I'm winning souls, I'm happy. When there's no altar call, and even in the best part of London, if I'm in a church when there's altar call, nobody's going to say, I'm not happy there. I'm not. So I could be in paradise, and if there's no purpose in paradise, I am sad. I could be in hell, and if there's purpose in hell, I am happy. That's what purpose drivenness does to you. There's a sense of meaning, a sense of satisfaction, a sense of meaning and a sense of satisfaction. So that's the benefit of being, when God says, the version of you that I like and I had in mind was a purpose-driven version of you. There are certain fringe benefits that accumulate to you and I. And the third one is there's increased motivation. You see, when I'm in the business of making disciples and soul winning, I am fearless. I am motivated. My wife will tell you, once my husband sleeps in the morning or sleeps in the night and wake up, forget all his discouragement the day before, he's back. I am motivated. You know why I'm motivated? Because I'm purpose driven. Once you find your purpose and you're doing it, somehow there's a divine motivation. It doesn't matter how discouraged you are still motivated. Like I am motivated to repioneer Cornerstone Church. Why? Because this is my purpose. Don't care what has happened. I don't care what is going on. Well, this is my purpose. Increased motivation. And then the fourth one is there's better life management. There's better life management. You know why I say that? Because, you're kind of concentrating on the things that matter most. Life is simpler. Pastor Emmanuel, let us go and do a one day. I'm not doing. That's not me. Pastor Emmanuel, let us. No, sorry, that's not me. Pastor Emmanuel, let's go and join politics. I don't think that's me. I mean, I could deal with an appointment, but I don't think I'm going to, no. Life is simpler. Life is easy to manage. My options are now limited around my purpose. And there's simplified decision making. There's a simplified decision making. Having a purpose can simplify daily decisions, right? This is, I'm in London, right? I'm still around. But the moment I turned up in London, the first thing I did was find a church where I can win souls. That's what I do. If I live here now and head to Vienna, like I go to Vienna, almost Austria, I'll be looking for how to win souls. If I turn up in Nigeria, maybe I head to Abuja to do a second cornerstone church, it is to win souls. The decision is easier. It's simplified decision making. I want to buy another car. I'm thinking there might be times when I might carry my church members in the car, so I need a car with it's easy decisions. Give me a two-seater car, I'll give me a 7-seater car instantly. My purpose makes my decision for me. I don't even have to make a decision. My purpose tells me what to choose. Life is easier. So this month, where we're preaching a sermon on building the best version of you, I want to put it to you today that the best version of you is the purpose-driven you. And you can't even begin to deal with that until you answer the question, why am I here? This pastor, I know why I'm here. I may not have made billions. I may not have built a church of 10,000 people, but I know why I'm here. I know why I'm here. Do you know why you're here? Do you know why you're here? So I want to encourage you, don't just celebrate your birthdays. Please find out why. Don't just think about the day you were born. Please try and interrogate why you were born. And once you find it, you found your life's overriding objective. You found your life's agenda. You found your life's one thing that you do. You found your life's the work that you must work. And that version of you is the version of you that God had in mind. My prayer for you this morning is that you will stop this pettiness, that you stop living mediocre life, that you can see that God created you to be an eagle. Please stop rolling on the floor. Your place is to soar, not to be on the floor. Your place is to soar, not to be on the floor. So Cornerstone, rise up, find your purpose, and think it, breathe it, and live it out like your pastor is doing. And when you do that, you find yourself happier, and you make God happy. That's all I have for you this morning. Go and find the best version of you, and the best version of you is the purpose-driven you. Amen.